Hello, my name is Bob and I'm from TapeFormers, and today I wanted to talk about our USA building wire tape form that we manufacture. Now first of all, this bench that we have here represents a mounting bench on an extruder line. Okay, so we're looking at this tape former here, so the extruder head would go about there. So the extruder head's going to be sort of 3/4 to 1 inch, so 20 mil to 26 mil away from the exit of the former. So that's how close the head would be. Now we have two models of this type of tape former. We have the Model C, which the tape width on the Model C will go up to 45 mil, which is 1 3/4, and then after that 1 3/4, the Model C is not long enough, so we have to make the tape former longer. So the next one we make is the Model D. So the Model D goes from 45 mil, 1 3/4 onwards. So that's why we have two different tape formers. Now the mounting positions on these tape formers can be found either in our catalogue here, which is Model C and Model D, and there's the dimensions there, the mounting dimensions. If you don't have a catalogue, this can be found on the website. So the website is a copy of the catalogue. Another thing we need to speak about is on the larger, the Model D tape former. As you can see, this is slightly curved at the entrance. It's flat there, but it is slightly curved. So when it comes off the roller wants to be back here. If this is crinkling because the roller's too close, it will carry the crinkle all the way down the tape former and into the cable. So it needs a bit of a chance to settle down. The paper needs a bit of a chance to settle down before it goes into the tape former. Also regarding the mounting, this tape former wants to be mounted square in this way. So it doesn't want to be on an angle, it wants to be straight and running in. And also it wants to be level this way. So the centre of this insulated cable wants to be running into the centre of the extruder head. So that's how they are mounted. Now what we have here, this is, excuse if I tell you something you already know, but this is the building wire, and as you can see, it's wrapped by one paper around the whole thing. So it's wrapped around the insulated cores and the bare wire, and then the bare wire has another tape former which wraps the bare wire. So the bare wire is kept away from the two insulated ones. So we have two tapes. So for that reason, we need two tape formers, and we've fitted them inside each other. So if you look at this, this is the outer tape former that does the outer tape, and this is the inner tape former that does the inner tape with a bare ground wire. So that's why we have two tape formers. The center tape former, just think about this profile. That's the profile. So if you look at that from the end, so that's like looking at tape former from this end, you're looking at the profile. So that's the profile, that's what it looks like. And that's how we show all our drawings with these profiles. So this is what we call profile A. So the right hand is overlapping the left hand tape. As it goes through, as we're looking this way, this tape is overlapping that tape that's on the outside. So that's the profile, that's what it looks like. Now the center tape former, we have found that we can keep one tape size to do all of the bare ground wires. Now the bare ground wires, they vary from 1.5, which is like 1/8 of an inch, up to about 3 mil, which is like 1/16, up to 3 mil, which is about 1/8. So because this bare ground wire doesn't vary that much, we can use one tape to wrap all of the wires. So the center former doesn't change. regardless of the size of the tape former, regardless of the outer tape size of the tape former, we use one tape. And the way we do that, this is the profile of the center tape former, and this would be a large ground wire, and you can see that we bring the tape round and fold it just the edges in at the top. But this would be a small ground wire, and we've folded far more. So that's how we achieve it, by folding more on the smaller ground wire and less on the larger ground wire, and it still passes the crush test. So the idea of that is so that you only have to use one tape on the inside, regardless of how big the tape former is, how big the outside tape of the tape former is. So that's why we stick to that. So that is, this one is 20 to 22 millimeters, which is 0.75 inch, like inch and 7/8 of an inch. So that's the kind of size that the inner tape is. So the outer tape has to change, because as these cables get bigger, we need more paper to wrap around the insulated ones. So this outer tape has to change. It has to get wider as we use bigger ones, so the inner one can stay constant. You can also, we can use one ground wire, which they always have one ground wire, or we can have two insulated gauze here, two insulated cables, or we could have three. And if we have three, the two are on this side and one's on that side. This is this side and that side of the center former. Now I'd like to talk about so the inside tape width, this tape width is already fixed. We know that it's going to be that, regardless of the size of the uninsulated or the ground wire. That tape remains the same. We're just going to fold the edges in different amounts, and fold it in half different amounts to get the finish we want. The idea of that is to save you having to produce different rolls for the inside and the outside. You only have to produce a different roll of pad of tape for the outside and not the inside, so it keeps it simple. Now the outside one, the way to determine the size is to get, so this is an insulated cable, this is an insulated cable, so in this application we're using one on the left, one on the right, and the uninsulated in the center, and we would wrap that like that and give round about 1/4 of an inch, probably just over, overlap. So we would measure that size, and in this case it's 60 millimeters, so that's 1 3/8 inches. So the 1 3/8 inches being 60 millimeters, the maximum the Model C can take is 45 millimeters, so that would need to be Model D. Now if you are unsure about what tape widths to use on these sizes for the outside, we're more than happy to advise what we think would be right to produce a good wrap. So we can easily get around that. Just send an email, we're more than happy to explain how to sort that out. So that's how we deal with that. Now what I'm going to do now is thread this tape former up, so you can see how it's threaded. Now, so the first thing we do, this is the inner tape, which, like I say, is 20 to 22 millimeters, 0.875, 7/8 of an inch. So we need to cut a point on it. We'll start like that. Now you notice that this inner tape former has a ceramic here. This is where the ground wire is going to go through, and the ceramic's to stop wear. So you push that through like that. Now if you have difficulty, now you can push this all the way through, but if you have difficulty pushing this through, there's an easy fix for that, and that is to hook this up, pull it through, and then push it through like that, so that's in. Okay, so the ground wire then goes through there and through there and out the tape former. So that the ground wire is in the centre and it's being looked after with this ceramic here, and it's running through the centre of the tape former. Then the outer tape, again, this represents the outer tape. Again, we cut a lead on that before we thread it. So it's not that particular which order you do these, whether you do the inner one or the outer one first, doesn't seem to make much difference which way around you do it. So that's the outer tape now going around, and then the cables, these are the insulated cables, they go through the guides, and one goes to the left of the centre tape former and the other one goes to the right. If there's if there's three of these insulated cables, two will go to the right and one will go to the left, as you can see with the guides. And then that is wrapping the paper around all. If you open it, you can see the ground wire has been wrapped with the centre paper. You can see it being wrapped here. Now, like I say, the extruder head wants to be fairly close, because after a while, if you have the extruder head right back here, it will open. So it needs to be fairly close. At the same time, the rollers that the tape goes through don't want to be too close to the entry. Sort of like 2 inches back, 50mm back, the minimum further is okay as well. So that's how the tape former works.